Why did the can crusher quit his job?
Why?
Because it was soda pressing.
Oh.
Da-da-da-da.
Mm-hmm.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast, where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we are talking about vinegar
What?
and balsamic vinegars. Yeah, let's talk about it.
For Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.
Sharon, did you eat anything fun this week?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I
Really?
had split pea soup
Oh, dang. Where did you have that split pea soup?
right here at your house.
Yeah, you did.
It was really wonderful.
Okay, so I will be honest. When he's like, I made something, I'm excited about it. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, I was like, are you going to tell me? He's like, no, you have to wait till we get home. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And I came in and when I found it was split pea soup, I was a little underwhelmed.
Oh, really?
No. In the sense of like, it's split pea soup, right?
Right. What's so special?
Yeah. It's just, it doesn't feel like a glamorous soup at all.
Until you taste it.
I know. Right? Okay. I'll let you continue. Sorry.
It's super good. It looks like traditional split pea soup, very thick and green, which I know a lot of people aren't into that, but
Yeah.
I am. It was really yummy. And there were chunks of ham and carrots in it.
Yeah.
That's it.
It was so
Except
good.
when you taste it, there's a lot of flavor depth to it. There's
Yeah.
a lot of flavors going on. They're not competing with each other, but there's just more flavor than just the pea, ham, and carrot.
Yeah. It was good.
And I learned it's because of the bones that Lee used.
Yes.
He used different types of bones. Some beef bones, I think. In that broth.
I think he said that was the only thing that they had available. So he just bought them from the butcher and just chucked them in.
Yeah.
I agree. There was definitely some good depth of flavor there.
Yeah. And he paired that with chicken broth. So that was the base.
Mm-hmm.
And then he blended the lentils, the pea lentils, I guess, because it had that nice thick texture.
Yeah.
And then Winter at her recent cooking class had a lot of chopped vegetables that he diced even finer, right?
Yep.
And threw it in.
And then they kind of I would say they dissolved into it, but I feel like that added a lot of different flavors that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, there were things like zucchini and red peppers.
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
Yeah. It was fun.
There was a little bit of a cayenne kick to it,
Mhm.
which was nice. I liked it.
Oh, good. I know he knows that you liked it because I loved it. I was like, oh man, it's even better the second day. This is good.
It's one of the
soup.
best soups I've had, I think, at least in a long time.
He will be so excited to hear that.
What did you eat this week? Besides this awesome soup.
Yeah, that was really good soup. So this week we went to Lee and I went on a date.
Oh,
We went to
nice.
a place called Shirokuma. It's here in West Valley City in Utah. And the thing that we got there was something called snow cream. Have you ever heard of snow cream before?
Well, I have from A Little House on the Prairie perspective.
What?
Laura Ingalls' mom, I think, makes snow cream when it snows, like the long winter.
Yeah.
That book or whatever. She
Uh-huh.
makes snow cream. I'm pretty sure
really?
she did. I'm positive I'm thinking of the right book. But yeah, they like take some snow from outside and some cream and
just mix it
it's a
together.
dessert.
I can kind of see that being
I think
a
they
thing.
put sugar in it too. I don't know.
That's basically what we had. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
You had Pioneer dessert.
yeah,
at
an Asian kind of this little fun little Asian ice cream shop.
Okay.
So once again, it was called Shirokuma, and I have never seen anything. I've never seen snow cream before. So they've got this machine, and they pull out this disc of frozen milk product.
Oh, okay. A disc.
It's like a big old disc, and I'm just showing Sharon so she knows how big it is. It was
Oh,
quite
okay.
large.
So it's about
It's like the size of,
almost a foot wide and 6 inches tall.
Yeah, it was quite thick. And then you stick it onto this platform and kind of lock it into place. And then there's a blade that shaves off the ice so that it comes
okay.
off and has the texture of snow.
Nice.
So when you eat it, it's like ice cream, but it's a little bit healthier, I believe. And then you add all these other toppings that probably don't make it as healthy.
What are you talking about?
So I got taro snow cream.
Okay.
I don't know. I know it's not for everybody, but I grew up eating taro. So I was like, oh yeah. And then the toppings I got were sweetened condensed milk, very traditional, and red bean. I don't know if you guys know what it's Chinese red bean. Or adzuki beans, if you're familiar with that.
Oh,
They're usually
okay.
a sweeter bean, not a savory bean. If you're wondering like, what's wrong with you? And that was so good. And I think Lee, what did he get? He got a mango snow cream with lychee and mango and some sweetened condensed milk. And it was really good.
The sweetened condensed milk sounds good.
Yeah. It just added a
On
nice
there.
little touch to it.
Nice.
And they were so nice. Did
they put it on like syrup?
Oh,
It
yeah.
just as like a little.
Totally. It was
drizzle.
awesome. They had like one that had the 3 nozzles and then she just drizzled and she came around. One of the owners, she was there and she's like, oh, do you want some more? I was like, yes, please. It was awesome. So if you guys are ever in Utah and want to get a fun, sweet treat, that's kind of, I think it's a really, it's pretty trendy in Asia. So, but we've got one here in Utah. Look at that.
Hey.
We're fancy.
Yeah, that is way fancy.
And now for the main course.
Okay, let's get down to our first topic at hand. Vinegars.
And balsamic vinegars.
But first, a cautionary tale.
A cautionary tale? What are you talking about?
I told Winter that I had a story
She
to
did.
tell.
And she didn't tell me anything about it. And I'm a little concerned now because
Not a lot of people know this story.
she says a
Few people
cautionary
do,
tale.
but-
Okay, let's hear it.
So we've talked about before my hesitancy with the Instant Pot, right? Because I've blown up food in my kitchen without the use of anything electronic or mechanical.
Yeah, go listen to the Instant Pot episode, you guys. And maybe there's a couple of Facebook Live videos about the Instant Pot. She's scared of the Instant Pot.
A little bit.
And it's concerning that you're bringing this up in
Well-
regards to vinegar.
Right. No. So I have, in my 20s, I was quite naive. We'll just put that out
Where
there.
are we all?
So this story, I was in my 20s and I had a date and I was very excited for this date. I met a guy online, as you do,
As you do.
and the traditional way, right? And we had gone on our first date and we had a fantastic date. We went to a baseball game and we chatted and it was really fun.
Oh,
and it was
dang.
great. I was super excited. And then we made arrangements for another date. I had at the time a very weird schedule and he wanted to make sure that he saw me again. And he's like, hey, well, why don't I make dinner for you at my house? And, you can be home by 8 and get your sleep and whatever. Like it was very considerate and whatever. And he's like, I'll make this steak dinner. And,
Wow.
he was going to grill me some steak and veggies and it was going to be great. And I was so excited, but I was also super nervous because he was quite a bit older than I was. He was about 10 or 11 years older.
Okay.
And so he was very sophisticated as well. And so this, of course, in my 20-something me is very intimidating. And I was like, oh, okay. Am I out of my league? I totally wasn't, but I didn't know that at the
Isn't
time.
that funny?
So he's like, I will let you bring the adult beverage. That's how he phrased it. I was like, oh, okay. I'm going on this sophisticated date. He's going to make me some steak, whatever. So I thought, I don't know what to bring.
Yeah.
And then it came to me and I was like, oh, this is a perfect use for the wine that I got for my birthday. Perfect. So I brought the wine that I got for my birthday.
Okay. Oh, no.
That I had tried on my birthday that I did not really care for. So I'll say that. It was a,
Oh, okay.
you know where I'm going with this.
I do know where you're going with this, but I got to know time frames now.
Don't ruin it.
Okay.
So it was a Pinot Noir, it's a very fine, it's fine. It's fine. And I was like, I was pretty new to wine and things. And I was like, I don't think I like this. But I tried it, corked it, you can keep wine for a bit. 20s me did not understand that you can keep wine for a bit, meaning about 5 days. So my birthday is in May.
Oh no.
This date we're talking about is in August,
So
possibly September,
where was this wine being stored?
in my bedroom under my bed.
Oh my God.
In a perfectly temperature controlled environment. Perfectly temperature controlled. Where we don't run the AC during the day
Nope.
because we're at work.
Yep.
So
And summers
There's
in
that.
Utah are quite warm.
on the second story was my bedroom.
Oh yeah.
PS.
Mm-hmm.
So I am feeling pretty excited, and I, have my whatever date outfit that I'm sure I agonized over, because I agonized over this date. But I was very excited for this date. So it rolls around. I go over to his house and I've got my wine, and he's like, ooh, whatever. He is impressed, which I was like, yes, So he goes outside and like he had to set the table and everything like that. And so he's like, hey, like he's going in and out of the back door, right? Because
Mhm.
he's grilling the steak. So I'm in the kitchen and he's set the table, and I was like, oh, I'll just pour this wine. No big deal. So I open it up and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm a wine drinker.
You tasted it.
No, I just opened it.
You just opened it and you're like,
opened it
just
and
made
I
the
was like,
conclusion. I don't think this is for me.
I just don't know what people go on about wine for. And I pour the wine, and it's red wine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I pour it, and I'm like, I gotta take a sip. And I'm like, yeah, I just really don't understand why people love wine. And he comes in from outside, from like the fiery grill,
Yeah.
smoky and whatever. And he's like, what's that smell? That smell, folks, is vinegar. Alcohol's natural fate. And he's like,
man.
is that the wine? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm faking that I really know about wine. And I'm like, it's Pinot.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he just holds it up and he's like, how long have you had this wine? I'm like, oh, like I was really vague about it. And he's like, does it taste good to you?
And you're like,
And I'm
no,
like-
I'm not a wine person.
Yes, exactly. And he's like, well, I'm not a vinegar person. And he's like, this is vinegar. And I'm like, oh, I think you should taste it. And he's like, I don't have to taste it. I'm
I
smelling
can
it.
smell it.
Yeah. So
That's-
surprisingly, we
that's-
went on more dates.
That is surprising.
Right.
He probably is like, okay. Bless your
Mhm.
heart.
Yep. Bless my little naive 20-something heart.
Oh man. So
Yeah.
vinegar, huh?
Vinegar.
Yeah.
I made my own vinegar.
Good job. You had no idea that you were doing that, huh?
None at all.
None at all.
None.
Well, tell me a
Did
little
not
bit about
occur to me.
Let's talk about vinegars really fast, and then we'll get into the sordid world of balsamic vinegars.
Yeah. Well, it's basically an alcohol fermentation.
Yeah.
So you've got different types of strength and different types of vinegar. So we've got wine vinegars, which is the sherry vinegar and
Mhm.
balsamic vinegar fall under. There's also cider vinegar, which is basically just apple cider vinegar. That's yeast fermented apple juice.
Mm-hmm.
You've got fruit vinegars, which are more infused with fruit, or they're made from fruit juices.
Okay.
You've got malt vinegar, which is unhopped beer.
Okay.
You've got distilled vinegar, which is made from distilled alcohol. You've got Asian vinegars, which are usually made from whole, sometimes roasted grains.
Mm-hmm.
They use a mold culture rather than a sprouted grain culture.
Oh.
Let's see. Yeah, and you've got just wine vinegars are basically a base of yeast and fermented grape juice. But then when you get into balsamic and sherry, those are specialized versions of that. Then you've got your white vinegar, which is the most common in the United States.
That's what everybody usually has in their cupboards.
Yeah, people use it. I mean, you can use it for everything.
Yeah, for a ton of
I
stuff.
use it to clean, but I also honestly use it for cooking too, like
Yeah.
in dressing sometimes if I
Mhm.
just want something, a basic acid. The white vinegar contains few or none of the aromatic and savory byproducts of the alcohol fermentation from the other kinds of vinegars, like malt or a wine vinegar.
So do those just get stripped out, or is it just? Do you know what happens with that?
It's made from one of the purest sources of acetic acid, and it's made by acidic fermentation of pure alcohol that's either been distilled or synthesized from natural gas. But it doesn't contain any of that other stuff, the aromatic and savory byproducts. And in the U.S., there's more white vinegar made than any other kind. And it's mainly used for pickles, salad dressing, cleaning, that kind of stuff. I mean, I buy it by the gallon.
Yeah.
So
it's cheap.
Yeah. And then you've got vinegar strengths. Usually those, like a white vinegar, usually has about 5% acidity. So something to watch out for is the acidity of the vinegar that you're using. So if you have a recipe that maybe you want to substitute, like it calls for a rice wine vinegar, which would be like an Asian vinegar, and all you have is maybe apple cider vinegar.
Okay.
And you think, well, that kind, they're both kind of a lighter colored vinegar.
It's got to be the same.
Maybe, yeah, it's not. The acidity is stronger typically in vinegars made in the U.S. They're usually between 5 and 7%. The Asian vinegars, like Japanese rice vinegars, are about 4% acidity, so it's milder. And there's like something called black Chinese vinegars, and those are as little as a 2% acidity. So if you are trying to be creative with a recipe or doing any kind of substitution, or maybe you're subbing out cider vinegar for balsamic or something like that, you need to pay attention to that acidity
because it's going to
level.
change your taste of what
It's gonna
was
change
intended.
the flavor. Sometimes it might be more pungent.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Well, and sometimes it's fine. I feel like sometimes it's like I do want a little bit more punchy, and maybe having a stronger vinegar would work. But yeah, if you got one that is trying to be light, a light vinegar, I'm trying to think of. I know that there's some Asian dishes that require like you said, like a rice wine vinegar, and those are definitely milder.
Right.
And then, but if you substitute for something punchier, it might overwhelm the dish.
Right. And vinegar is an acid.
Yes.
And you can use it for so many things. It's a great finishing product to a dish, or you can use it kind of while you're cooking in the middle of the cooking process. It's good to kind of cut the flavors of some richer dishes because it can brighten up those individual flavors. So it just doesn't feel so heavy and overwhelming. Like the difference between like winter cooking and summer cooking kind of a thing. It can really lighten up your flavor a little bit.
If you have a
so it just
splash
doesn't
of vinegar.
feel so heavy. But if you're going to use the acid of vinegar in there, I would just recommend about a teaspoon for a recipe that has 4 to 6 servings.
Okay.
So just kind of start there. And so, so if you've got a big pot of stew that has about, your Dutch oven is rather fullish.
Right.
Just you start off with a
teaspoon. Teaspoon and just see how if it helps cut through things.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized a couple of those things that you just told me about. It's really surprising.
Yeah. So strengths are important. The acidity levels. Harold McGee talks about vinegar strength. When developing and following recipes in which vinegar is a prominent ingredient, cooks should take care to note not only the kind of vinegar, but also the strength, which is usually indicated on the label. In the U.S., most industrial produced vinegars are adjusted to 5% acetic acid, but many wine vinegars are 7% or stronger. Mild Japanese rice vinegars, by contrast, may be 4%, which is a U.S. federal minimum. Black Chinese...
To be considered a vinegar.
Right, to be considered a vinegar. Chinese vinegars as little as 2%. A spoonful may thus provide as much acetic acid as expected, or twice as much, depending on the vinegars that are called for and actually used. So you could easily be doubling the type of vinegar.
You could overwhelm it easily. Yeah. I did not know that about percentages. I should have realized that there was different possibilities for that.
Yeah. But balsamic vinegar is a little bit different.
Yeah.
It's been aged longer, and sometimes there's more grapes involved.
Yes. Well, so this is one thing that I did not realize, Sharon, is that I actually technically think I have never had real balsamic vinegar before.
What?
Like, I have never had the thing that they called traditional balsamic vinegar before. I honestly think I have not.
Tell me what traditional balsamic vinegar is.
This was so fun. I totally geeked out on this, you guys. So I apologize because I'm going to throw around a few compound names but okay. So traditional balsamic vinegars, they have a specific designation to get to this names. They call it TBV. Traditional balsamic vinegar.
Okay.
It is only made in two places. If you're going to have this designation, it's made in Reggio Emilia or
where's that?
It's in Italy or Modena, Italy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so those two places, Reggio
I've had
Emilia.
it from Modena, I know that.
Okay, but see, there's a little asterisk there because I thought
What
I
does
had
that mean?
two. Yeah. So they have to have traditional methods. And they also have to have a specific aging process. So let me tell you kind of how traditional balsamic vinegar is made. So it must contain something called grape must, MUST.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I had never heard of that before I started looking. You guys, I'm such an idiot sometimes. Like I'm like, there's so much I'm learning doing this podcast. So thanks for joining along. So these are whole pressed grapes. That includes the juice, the skin, the seeds, the stems, even like all of it. They all must be locally grown from these areas, and they are late harvested.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually the varieties that they use are Lambrusco, or Trebbiano varieties. So those two varieties.
Okay.
They are pressed, right? And then they're cooked over a flame until they're concentrated down to about half of what it was originally. And then they're let ferment for about 3 weeks, just kind of naturally on its own. And then the bacteria that is there's, is kind of what it does. Like we've talked about fermentation and these processes that are part of what makes everything good, right? The fermentation stuff. So they are put into these aging barrels, and they're usually about 5 of them, and they go from bigger all the way down to smaller. And the wood also makes a difference because they usually these casks for these vinegars could be made of oak or chestnut, juniper, mulberry, maybe even cherry. So those flavors of the cask also contributes to the flavor of your ultimate balsamic, which is so interesting. So what happens is these are all okay. So this is what happens. Once a year, the smallest cask of vinegar is bottled. Okay. And then each cask is then topped off with the vinegar from the one bigger than it. So the small one just got bottled. Mm-hmm. So that one's empty. So the next one up, you take some of that and put it into the smallest one. And then from the third one up, so
they're just transferring on down the sizes.
And yes, exactly. So it's not even you're transferring all of it. You're just transferring part of the bigger one into the smaller one. It's just so interesting because
it's like a layering of flavors type of a thing.
Yeah. So you're mixing kind of some old and new together and letting those age and ferment. So that's why you don't ever they talk about how you don't have an exact like how old is this vinegar. They have ranges.
Yeah, it usually says aged about 12 years or something like that.
Yep, exactly. And for the traditional balsamic vinegar, they have the specific designations. So in Reggio Emilia, the traditional balsamics are graded affinato or fine, and that has a red cap on it.
Oh.
And that's about 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
They have vecchio. I'm not totally sure how to say that. And that means old and has a silver cap. And that's about 15 to 20 years vintage. Or extra vecchio, which is extra old and it has a gold cap. And that's about 20 to 25 years. So that one's in that one specific area, Reggio Emilia. That's how they designate it. In Modena, they just have like affinato, which is the fine, has a white cap, and the extra vecchio just has a gold cap. So generally they have some sort of designation. The reason why I say I don't think I've ever had traditional balsamic vinegar is because the texture of most balsamics that I have had is not this.
Oh, what's the texture like?
It's usually really glossy and it's really viscous. So really the reason why, like, it's super almost syrupy.
Mm-hmm.
I've only had balsamic that was boiled down basically to get a more viscous balsamic. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
So I don't think I've ever had something that
I don't know
started out as a traditional balsamic vinegar. So you can know that this is coming from this area because it has a stamp
Oh, okay.
It's called a DOP stamp. I'm not even going to try and say it. I'll put it in the show notes because I can't say it. It's in Italian, but it has this stamp for this Aceto Balsamico Tradizionale, and it's a European Union certificate. You have to be able to prove that you've done this entire process.
Wow.
It can't, and the ingredient, really, the only ingredient it can have is this grape must. That's it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and because it's so difficult to get, because it's only from these two regions, to have this authentic balsamic vinegar, it is quite spendy.
Okay.
It's like, I mean, it's like $200 an ounce or something ridiculous like that.
Whoa.
So that's why I'm like, I don't think I've ever had a true balsamic vinegar.
You haven't paid a high price for
No,
your vinegar,
I kind of feel like, I really feel like I haven't. So now, and the one thing I also did not realize was that balsamic vinegar, you don't cook with it because the heat will...
It's a finisher.
Yeah, it's totally a finisher. Sometimes they just put a little bit on some meat or on some fresh berries, just a few drops. And it's just a different way of looking at it. It's a finisher completely, because you don't want to destroy the bouquet that has been created by the fermentation process, as well as with all the wood flavors from the casks. So I also I want to try this at some point in time, is that sometimes balsamic is just drunk, like in a little shot glass.
Like a wee dram.
It's yes, a wee dram. Exactly.
A wee dram of balsamic.
Thanks, Catherine, for that. A wee dram of balsamic to cleanse the palate. And I just thought that was cool. So once again, I don't think I've ever had traditional balsamic vinegar. I'm going to get into some geeky stuff now, you guys.
Oh, tell.
So the reason why balsamic is this way is because I was a little surprised, because I was expecting the vinegary part to compose most of the vinegar, this balsamic vinegar. But there was a study done where somebody analyzed how much composition was in these balsamic vinegars, these traditional ones.
Okay.
And sugars were a bulk of it. Glucose and fructose, that was about 44% by mass. And then you get into the acids. That's only about 6%. And those are acetic acid, obviously, like you mentioned with the other vinegars, but they have a few other vinegars, gluconic, tartaric, succinic, malic, and lactic acids that are in these. And that's, like I said, about 7%. And those drop the pH enough to like 3.
Okay.
Yeah, drops it down pretty good. And then there's a complex, there's all these other things that are involved to kind of give those fun flavors, and they're so minor in how much they are in there, but like some different alcohols and aldehydes, and those things kind of bring out the unique flavor. Now, I didn't know this, but the density, you know how that viscosity I was talking about?
Right.
There's something called melanoidins, and they're polymers. They're long chain molecules that kind of make it viscous, and that's kind of how they get that dark color, that viscous. And it's just these polymers that are kind of stuck together. There's hardly any water, right? And so it's just these polymers that are just interacting with each other. And then you get, because of it, like this is the Maillard reaction.
So it affects the color and the texture.
The texture, the viscosity.
The Maillard.
I know. I was about to correct myself, and I was like, one of our listeners, Richard, is going to correct us again. So the Maillard reaction is kind of happening because of these compounds.
Yes.
So there was so much that I was so surprised about. Now you say, well, Winter, what have we been eating then?
Yes.
Right?
What is this crap I'm eating?
I know. I feel like I've been deprived all my life, but there's other grades of balsamic vinegar. There's one called Condimento Balsamico, which is done in the traditional manner. So you've got the barrels, it's made with grape must, but it's not supervised in the sense of like you've done the process. You know, they
didn't pay for the certificate.
Yeah. And or they were not able to age it as long as the traditional stuff, which is 12 years.
Okay.
You gotta have it for 12 years. So they do say that the grape must, if you want still a really good version of this Condimento Balsamico, is you still want grape must, but occasionally it can have wine vinegar in it to kind of help with some of the acidity, because it hasn't had a chance to do its
the wine
thing.
vinegar is the cheat.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a little bit. And then they have balsamic vinegar of Modena, IGP. And
IGP.
I just need to tell you, I thought this was really a fun little history. So the first balsamic vinegars were brought over to the United States in 1977 by somebody named Chuck Williams, the founder of Williams and Sonoma.
Oh,
And
okay.
So, and
when were they brought over?
1977. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so because it was so different and kind of new, I think there was kind of a boom. There was a rush on balsamic vinegar. And so obviously the demand.
What is this new flavor?
The demand made a run for the supply, you know, so they were just running out. So this rise in popularity of this random product that came over from Italy has created this new designation of balsamic vinegar of Modena IGP. So these ones are just cooked in pressurized vats. They're aged for about 2 months in large wooden barrels. And it does have, I would say, a lot more wine vinegar, like 50%, can contain up to 50%. And then they do sometimes do some thickening agents, putting in caramel, other colorants to make it look like real balsamic. So that's why you can get a $5 bottle of balsamic vinegar. So kind of the same.
Cheap imitation.
Yes. But I mean, I'm going to say that I've had some really good, decent balsamic vinegars that are probably just like, it's got some interesting flavors, but I'm sure once again, I don't know what to compare it to.
It's just vinegar.
Yeah. I feel like I have never had the real stuff.
We might need to jointly spring for some.
Okay.
For research.
You know what? I bet Caputo's. I bet Caputo's would have some.
Tony or Matt Caputo, if you're listening.
Can we just taste a little? We'll spring for a bottle. Yeah. We'll spring for a bottle. I'm interested to know. I'm sure that there are some out there, but I just was like shocked that I think I have never eaten it. Obviously, you can have more imitation balsamic vinegars, which are just your straight up white vinegars, wine vinegars and stuff that just have all the colorings and flavorings that are added. So I think you just need to be careful. Now, if one of the main ingredients in your balsamic is grape must and it's the number one thing, I think you've got a good one on your hands. But if it's not the first ingredient, then it's not going to have as traditional of a.
I'm totally going home and looking at all my vinegar
Me too.
bottles.
Yeah, I am too.
Okay.
So that's balsamic vinegars. Now, the reason why we started this discussion originally, right, Sharon, is that because we had a listener mail. You guys,
yes, we did.
We love listener mail.
Email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Yeah, totally. We love that. So this is from Fran Williams, and I just wanted to have a discussion because she asked us the question, and I think we need to have a discussion about it.
Oh, thanks, Fran.
Yeah. So she says, hi, Sharon and Winter. There are some stores in my area that sell imported infused olive oils and balsamic vinegars in lots of different flavors. The people at the store will fill your bottles from big vats and let you try the different flavors on little cubes of bread. I love going to the store and tasting different flavor combinations of oils and vinegars. I use a lemon oil / strawberry vinegar combination on spinach salad. I put green chili pepper oil and scrambled eggs. Ooh, that sounds good. And my teenagers love the Tuscan herb infused oil on bread and crackers. I like buying the oils and vinegars, and I've built up a collection, but I feel like I'm not getting the full use out of these purchases. For example, the coconut white balsamic vinegar with the Persian lime olive oil is amazing, but I really don't know what to do with it. Can you recommend some other ways to cook with these ingredients? I'd also like to know more about how these are made. So hopefully we explain at least the balsamic vinegars, how those ones are made. And I think just an infusion, they probably have been infused, and you can do infusions several ways.
Check out our infusions episode with Jason Logston.
Yeah. So there's several ways you can infuse oils and vinegars and such and add flavors. So what do you think? What would you recommend she try out?
Those are some pretty specific flavors. A lot of times when you're using like those infused oils or vinegars, like especially with like a balsamic vinegar, you're not necessarily cooking with it. It's used to finish.
Yes.
So I would suggest using it like you would your spices. It's part of your spice rack. I've used, I think it was like a pear infused olive oil. No, it was a pear infused balsamic. That's what it was. I've used that on my macaroni and cheese actually.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Just drizzled.
Just drizzled. Yeah. So you can use it on anything, but it's more like I use them as spices, just to flavor up a dish. And don't be afraid to use it. I mean, it's great in eggs.
I think it would be fun.
It's good with cheeses.
Yeah. Even just a couple of drops.
Sure. But I mean, when you go to a restaurant and you order a caprese salad, I mean, that's just cheese, which is your mozzarella, tomatoes, and basil. And so if it tastes good on that, it's going to taste good on a salad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
and it'll taste good with cheese dishes because
Yes.
you've got cheese in that salad, right? So just kind of
once again, anything
use it with abandon, but I mean, start off small.
Yeah.
Maybe just try flavoring like some bites of food.
Yeah.
You know, keep it out on the table, that type of a thing.
and see. Yeah. One thing that I think people forget that they can use balsamic vinegars on, especially, is you can use it on desserts.
Yeah, they're great on fruit.
Yeah, so simple. So one of the things that I have done is we made some caramel croutons and then we tossed some strawberries, sliced up strawberries in some balsamic vinegar. An 18-year aged balsamic is what it was. And it was such a nice contrast to that kind of almost tartness of the strawberries. So you have a strawberry vinegar that you mentioned. I think you could do that, or else you can do something that's a little out there. Like, heck, why don't you
Try it on ice cream.
Heck, I was gonna say coconut white balsamic vinegar that you have too. That one would be so yummy with a little coconut. With your strawberries.
Mm-hmm.
And we have used it on ice cream before. It is awesome.
You've used straight balsamic on ice
Oh
cream.
yeah, it's great.
So a flavored balsamic, especially
Would
if it
be
has some type of a sweeter fruit
Mhm.
or something like that,
Mhm.
would be really good.
Yeah, so I would give those a try because you'd be surprised. And if you're like, I want it to be, you can reduce it down so it's almost like a syrup itself.
Yeah. Reduce it by half.
Mm-hmm.
Just put it on a low simmer
Mm-hmm.
on your stovetop and reduce it by half, and you'll get this nice thick syrup.
Yeah.
Where you could use it as a dip of some sort or a nice glaze.
Yeah. I was thinking,
for
heck,
meat.
try it on oh, why don't you make some brownies or something like that?
Mm.
And then drizzle it on that. I just because like the sweetness and the richness of the brownie could have like some of that acid can cut through.
And if you're afraid to ruin your food like that, like a brownie, right? You're really afraid of it. Drizzle it on a plate.
And
Make it
dip it.
look like the restaurant, because that's
Oh,
what they're
yeah.
doing when they have that glaze on the plate. That isn't chocolate. That's balsamic reduction.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of cool things that you can do with it. Just try. Use them as, like we talked about with the vinegars. I mean, obviously see what kind of vinegar percentage that you might have so that if you're trying to use it in a dish, it doesn't totally throw off the dish.
Right.
But
check your acidity levels.
yeah. But then also if anything, use it like traditional balsamic vinegar as a finisher. So use it on meat. So like when you do, a steak even, that would be kind of cool to maybe reduce that down just a smidge and then just put a few drops on your steak or your seafood even.
Or roasted vegetables.
Oh my gosh. Coconut white balsamic vinegar on some
asparagus.
Yeah,
or
asparagus.
Brussels sprouts.
That would be so good.
And you know how the sheet pan dinners are so popular right now? You just cut stuff up, you put it on a sheet pan, you put it in the oven, and it's done in like 30 or 40 minutes.
And then you just drizzle some of that.
This is perfect for that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's so many options. Fran, I want to know what you end up trying. If you got any additional ideas, so send us an email. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. It's winter.
This is the section where you can email us your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Sharon? Do you have this week's question? Because I don't think I do.
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's hear it.
Hi, Sharon and Winter. We recently had a cooking fail in our home
Oh, those are no fun.
on a busy weeknight, and I wasn't the cook.
Oh.
Yeah. What is the proper way to deal with this situation? We ended up eating half the meal and a lot of dessert, but there were some hurt feelings involved.
Oh.
In the future, how can I avoid an uncomfortable fail? Thanks. Signed, supportive cheerleader.
Oh,
Sad.
that is sad. We've had fails before.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think everybody does, right?
Mhm.
How do you bounce back from that?
There was a time I burned the chili mac and I
Yep.
was really bitter
Yep, that
for
was
like a whole podcast episode.
Yeah, she really was. So we didn't even talk about that. We had to move on.
Yeah. We ate that anyway, and it was just gross. But mostly because they didn't notice that it was gross. And that's why we ate it. Because I was like, here, try this. And they're like, oh, it's really good. And I'm like, you're nuts.
You are a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, they didn't notice. There was the time that I blew up the spaghetti squash. Oh, that was another blown up food.
You got to stop blowing up food, honestly.
Blown up spaghetti squash in the microwave, which you can cook them in the microwave.
Yes, you can.
And this particular microwave was new to me. So the setting was just higher than the one that I was used to at home. But that was like our main dish.
Yeah.
Like we were having pasta on sauce on top of the spaghetti squash.
Yeah.
And then the spaghetti squash was like out of there. So I think that was one of the times where we just ate part of it and then ate part of something else.
Because you're like, no.
What do you do?
I've had a few fails, but I usually just power through them because they're just, my fails end up being not necessarily burned. They usually are like, like too mushy. Like I'm thinking of vegetables.
Overcooked.
Way overcooked.
There was one time where our rice was really mushy.
Oh, that's a bummer.
And instead of saving it, because then we would have had a combination of properly cooked and very mushy rice, we decided to go with pasta noodles instead.
That's not a bad idea.
There was another time where I made jambalaya for a gathering, and it wasn't ready until people were finished with dessert.
Oh, okay.
I had it for days.
So what do you do then? Okay, if I was not the cook,
situation.
Yeah, I think it does, because if I'm not the cook, then you know what? Somebody made me dinner. There was an attempt made.
It's your job to be supportive.
Yes.
Supportive cheerleader.
Yeah.
So you are doing a good job.
Yeah, and if they concede that it's bad, like it's burnt beyond, and there's like a nice smoky flavor to it.
Save the neck for me, Clark.
I would say if they concede that it's bad and they want to give up on it, I think that's okay to it's
okay to, you win some, you lose some. It's okay to give up. And it's okay to power through too.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it's not harmful in any way, right? As long as there's no chemical reaction that's hurting anyone, or we're not poisoned by listeria or something like that.
Right.
As long as it's not harmful, it's fine to power through.
Whatever.
Because somebody did this for you. I mean, in this case, it looks like you ate a lot of dessert. That's a plus.
We love dessert.
Who gets cake for dinner? Not every
do.
day.
I do. No, so yeah, I think just depends on the situation. And if somebody's kind of sensitive about their cooking abilities, then they may
support them and encourage them and compliment them on things that they are doing well.
Yes. And then just power through it. And I feel like if they concede that this is bad and that they are not going to eat it, then I think you're like, okay, well, I've taken a few bites and it's okay. And if you want to concede to that,
it's okay to totally eat cereal or order pizza.
Yeah,
that's all right.
It
doesn't mean that you failed as a homemaker or as a parent.
Yes,
it's totally fine because it happens to everybody.
Yes, it does. I mean, even talking to. So we had our last interview was with Christopher Kimball, and he talked about one of his fails, and he's like, we made pizza. We had to throw out the pizza and order out
because they ruined the yeast.
Yeah. So there's things happen, and so it's okay. It's okay to order out every so often. I think that's not bad.
Yeah. Join the club. That happens, I think, in every household.
Yeah. You're not alone.
It's okay.
You're not alone. Some inspirational music. Just kidding. You got this. Keep cheerleading them on. And if you're like, I can't handle this, there's been too many fails, and maybe you should cook a little bit more or help that person learn or
help
something.
That person out.
Yeah.
And have a good sense of humor about it, And if they can't, I mean, someday they'll be able to see the humor in it, I'm sure.
Because I think the chili mac incident was pretty funny. I wasn't there for it, but Sharon was pretty bitter about it when she came to record. And it's still ingrained in my mind.
Yeah. And it's just gross chili mac. Like nobody cares about that stuff, right? That wasn't like woo dinner or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world.
And they'll make so many more wonderful, better things.
Yes. Have hope. Be encouraging.
Yes. Compliment them lots. And then buy them their favorite treat.
Yes. They did. Good job. Good job, you.
Thanks for joining us today on our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music.
Hey, everybody. Have you seen us on Instagram? The Insta?
What?
At Hungry Squared. we are having a lot of fun there and just kind of showing some stuff that we've eaten, and it's been fun.
Pretty food photography.
Well, and also we've been doing a little bit of video there too. And so just come and see what we've got. It's so fun. So find us on Instagram at Hungry Squared, and go over to the show notes, you guys. It's at www.hungrysquared.com, because we usually have references to all that we've talked about. If you are trying to find something or we mentioned something and you're like, how do you spell that? It's usually there in the show notes.
We'll have links to different things that we like that you could purchase if you wanted to through our Amazon affiliate, so you can help support the podcast.
Yeah, we appreciate when you guys do that.
It's no extra money to you on Amazon part.
Yeah.
They just give us a little kickback for referring somebody over to their website.
Yeah, and we usually only put the stuff that we like, so...
Yeah, stuff that we like, that we've tried. We'll put recipes that we like, that we've tried, stuff like that.
Yeah. So join us there at hungrysquare.com. And next week, we'll join you again for another really fun, exciting episode. I can't tell you about it, but we're excited about it. So
Yeah.
we'll see you next week.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.